Hi everybody, I'm Bob Kendrick, president of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, and as the Negro Leagues Museum is celebrating the 100th anniversary of the birth of the Negro Leagues, it's only fitting that we talk about black baseball in Chicago. And when we think black baseball in Chicago, while it has such a rich history that began prior to the Negro Leagues, we have to think about this man. I'm standing next to the life-size statue of the great Andrew Rube Foster, the genius. Rube Foster, without question, the greatest baseball mind this sport has ever seen. And sadly, not a lot of people know who he is. As a matter of fact, I think you can legitimately make the case that Rube Foster might just be the most important, influential person in the history of this sport. Because sometimes lost in Rube's incredible leadership is the fact that Rube had been a great pitcher in the early era of black baseball. As a matter of fact, Rube Foster is credited with having invented what we now know to be the screwball. Back then, it was called a fadeaway. And Rube, of course, perfected this pitch. So much so that the great Major League manager, John McGraw, snuck him into his camp so that Rube could teach Christy Mathewson how to throw the screwball. Christy Mathewson threw the pitch all the way into the National Baseball Hall of Fame that he learned from the legendary Rube Foster. Foster was best known, however, as a visionary, a tremendous leader. He would organize the Negro Leagues here in a meeting that took place at the Paseo YMCA in Kansas City. He would become the president of the Negro Leagues. He owned the Chicago American Giants, and he managed the Chicago American Giants. And as a manager, Rube Foster was known to fine his ball players as much as $5 in the early 1900s if you were tagged out standing up. You were supposed to slide. Rube would draw a circle down the first base line and a circle down the third base line. And if every one of his players couldn't drop a bunt inside that circle, he would fine them. He was adamant about the style of play that would become signature of Negro Leagues baseball. Fast, aggressive. They'd bunt their way on. They'd steal second. They'd steal third. And if you weren't too smart, they were stealing home. And folks, that was the style of play that drew both black and white fans who sat side by side during an era when doing something socially together was virtually unheard of. Negro Leagues baseball brought the two races together. It all happens under the guidance and leadership of this legendary Chicagoan, Rube Foster.